What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Lasting Thoughts Podcast. I'm your host, this is True Relaxation, and we are back again for another episode. And yeah, as always, if you guys enjoy what you hear, what you're gonna hear, please be sure to rate this podcast and share it, of course. Let people hear um, my ramblings about things in life. So this episode, this is gonna be something I really haven't delved into since I done my podcast, and could be a touchy topic depending on the listener and your point of view and stance in your life currently. Um, this topic is gonna be me talking about my battle with my faith in God, not so much faith in religion. But my faith with my God, and when I say my God is because I believe everybody have their own personal relationship with their God and how they should go about their faith and their belief and their worship and who that person is. Um, that's why I don't know, tricky for me to subscribe to religion because they will tell you following one certain God is wrong compared to this certain God, and it's like, who are you to tell us what's right and wrong in our faith and our beliefs? So I feel like everyone should just have their own personal connection with that. Um, but yeah, I don't even know how I'm gonna talk about this, but I have some points here. So just starting off with just the general gist of my faith. What I'm going by is when I was young, of course, I grew up, fearing, not in a bad way, but fearing God in the typical way of, if you're bad, then you go to hell or whatever. If you're good, you go to heaven, typical thing. But, as I get older and I go through things in life, my faith started to dwindle. And then I went to another phase in my life where I started to have more understanding and whatnot, and I'm now in a more better relationship with my faith in God. So starting out, I don't want to sound like I was this unique person, but I always had a big trait of being very what's the word? Not aware, but what's that word? Jeez. Yeah, I can't figure out that word. It's right there too. It's not aware, but jeez, why did that word just like escape my brain? But yeah, that word. I always had a great sense of like, being able to see things and observe things, and I was never really, I was outspoken as a kid. Like I would see things and observe things, and I always questioned like, my father or my brother about it and see what answer they give me and whatnot. But as time got older, I started to speak less and just observe more. I think that's probably the word I was looking for, but but yeah. So as a kid, I would question life and death. Like, like I said, growing up fearing the whole, you bad, you go to hell, you good, you go to heaven, whatever. I used to always hate when my family, because they always would do this. Like we have like little family gatherings, and then towards the end of it, they would just start getting into a deep Bible discussion about God and why we do the things we do and what happens to us when we're gone type thing. I'm like, bro, I don't like like I'm still in elementary school. Like I'm trying to focus on getting to my adulthood. Y'all already talking about death, and y'all implanting this seed of doubt in my head of why should I continue. It's not so much of a suicide. Like, I don't know, as a kid you don't really think about suicide like that, but it's like having a lack in motivation of why I should push forward in life when you're telling me what my outcome is going to be already. That's why something I don't really personally like about, I guess, the Bible. Like, some of the messages is cool. I just don't like the whole prophetic side of it, because it just makes it feel like our decisions and our end game and our end goal is already decided from jump. Which is why I also question things like why it's one of those typical questions of people who do lose their faith. It's like, why do God allow this to happen? Like, I thought he's supposed to always love us and watch over for us. Like, such things as why slavery had to happen, why the Holocaust had to happen, why wars have to happen, why there's serial killers and murderers, but sometimes they get away, or they get away from like any consequences, but then there's innocent regular people who have to suffer and go through terrible and traumatic things in their life, and there's no quote unquote in-world justice for them. And it's like, the question of where was God during that time and whatnot. So I will always question these things, and like I said, since I was a kid, I've just been planting seeds of doubt in my head about my motivation for continuing this journey. And there was a point of time where my brother started going through a very I don't even know what to call this. I don't want to say it's a religious journey, but it was like a religious journey, but it was also touching like the conspiracy theories of things in life. And then it was borderline like he was more focused on the end goal of life, of like all the terrible things that's going on and what it's leading to, instead of just focusing on like the other side of things. And like I said, it's just always having a seed of doubt in my head as a kid. And then when I finally got to the point of hitting my depression in my teens, it was like, I was giving up. Like, I didn't want to do this no more. I started blaming God for like putting like, why you made me have to think about things like this, like why you put this level of perception in my head where only things that stick in my mind are the negative things that I always kept on hearing about and seeing in life, and just questioning about life and death and the afterlife, and thinking like, like God just treating our lives like just a joke. Like, do we even really matter type thing? Like, this is just a game to him. He's just playing with our lives. And I even like dislike, I just started to dislike the idea of the afterlife. I'm like, bro, like, that don't even sound fun. Like, that don't even sound worth it. Like, all of this we go through, just do that. That don't even sound worth it to me. It's like, so I was just, I gave up on everything. Like, not only life, I gave up on death as well. Like, I don't even want to bother with what comes next. I don't even want to bother what's happening here. Like, I was just done. I just wanted to just, I guess, fade away and whatnot. But just being stuck with the conscious of my good side of my heart, I guess, not, don't want to burden my family with my personal issues and whatnot. And I never wanted to do that to them, so I just always stood in there. But I was just like in a limbo state of not caring about anything anymore, which sucks, because then I would have those conversations with my dad and whatnot, like when he sees I'm slacking off in school, or when he questioned why I stopped playing my sports, because I know I used to be an athletic kid growing up. You're like, no, you used to be so good at playing this, and you just gave up. I'm like, yeah, that's the key word. It's not so much that I gave up on my hobbies, I gave up on life. But obviously that's something you don't want to say. But yeah, I did give up. I didn't want to do nothing no more. Like, what was the point of doing anything anymore? Like, this all sucked. Everything sucked. So I was just done. Then yeah, came towards college. That's when I went through another phase of life. Like, I separate my college in two halves. My first half was being in a frozen state of like, I avoided everyone. I didn't make college friends, which that's kind of the most important thing you're supposed to be doing in college. Making connections with people, because usually those people are the people who may help you in the future, depending on obviously your career path and your major and whatnot. But I didn't care. And of course I didn't like my first few years of college, because I didn't start doing my major classes until like a few years in. I'm like, bro, like, it felt like I was in high school again, like just doing the same high school classes again. I'm like, bro, I don't want to repeat of this. I don't want to repeat of my worst years of my life again. So I was just in an isolated state. I wasn't, not focusing on nothing, just being alone. Which I talked about in my last episode, isolation. The difference between being isolated and going into isolation. Like, I made the choice, but it was a forced choice because I didn't want to do anything else. So there was that. And then I don't know. I don't want to say I don't know, because this is going to go into my second part of this whole thing. So I'm just doing like, I guess, a rundown of my whole battle. But honestly, there were some things that happened in my life, towards my end of my high school years, going into my college years, that kept me going. And there was moments of talking to certain people, seeing like my awareness again started to kick in, and I started to figure out how to use it differently, instead of using it to just look at the negative and whatnot. I started to learn, like I said, I started to learn to just silently observe everything, and learning to put myself in different positions, put myself in different shoes, and try to understand why certain things for certain people work out better or worse, and compare myself and compare where I am in my life, and realizing that despite it all, I don't really have much to complain about in my life. I mean, there's some nitpick things I can talk about. Everybody has nitpick things, but I'm not really suffering like that. So why am I allowing myself to feel like this, I guess? So it was a combination of things, of the stuff that I was into in my life, the stuff I started getting into in life. I started changing the things I was interested in and changing my focus on whatnot. And one thing I'm going to talk about in the next topic is music. Hearing certain songs about, like how other people view their relationship with God and their faith and whatnot, and realizing like, I'm like, no, I'm understanding it now. But my relationship was still shaky. But then like towards the end of my college, and towards the end of my college, that's where kind of like I'm kind of getting it now, and I'm learning to no longer blame. Like I said, I talked about that in my last episode. No longer blaming everything else and other people for what's going on. Sometimes you just gotta see things for what it is, and also sometimes things aren't really that hard to like explain. Like the learning about the human side of things, there are some crappy people in this world who do crappy things, and the problem is, like obviously it's not gonna be like every time something bad is gonna happen you're just gonna see some magical force happen, like, you stop doing it. Like, you have to let certain things run its course, because yes, there is the point of at the end, as Tupac say, only God can judge us. Like, at the point of time, the decision of what happens to you comes down to the end game. So yeah, you want to do crappy things in your life, then guess what? Things gonna be crappy for you in the next life. So no longer just blaming, especially no longer blaming God and blaming everyone else for stuff that's in my life, and learning to accept what's happening. I still didn't learn how to take accountability for myself either, but that's gonna be in another episode. But yeah, so I started regaining my faith a little bit, and then God decided, well, I chalked this up to a God working, like, God works in mysterious ways or whatever. I I don't want to say I blame, but I credit this to something God, like, this is some divine intervention thing to happen. So during, like, towards the end of my college years, I've encountered somebody in my life. Now, it's a funny story for some people who probably not into that certain thing, or to some people who are into it. Obviously growing up, growing up in this era and whatnot, where the social media era and online gaming era started to pick up, and my growing up, now it's kind of the norm. But it was like everything was still growing up. We saw YouTube grow up, we saw Facebook grow up, we saw all of this stuff grow up. Most, this generation, they already have it now. So I have my best friend and my cousin that I grew up with in my life, and we are kind of like inseparable. Even when we moved away from each other, we were kind of like always inseparable in certain things we do in our hobbies. Like, we would play certain online games together, just talking to each other and hanging out with each other, even to the point where we actually sometimes be finishing our sentences together. So, like, we're always together. Like, you can't really get one without the other. It's kind of like we always say, like, it's a like a bundle deal. When you become friends or associated with one of us, you're gonna have to learn about the other one. Because we kind of help mold each other. So we always together. But I don't know how this happened, but for like a good, I think like a year or two, he met some friends. We played this online game, and he met some friends through there, and I met one of them, but I did not meet the other one, and she is a mutual friend of both of them. And yeah, for those 2 years of them all knowing each other, this one person has evaded me, because like I said, me and my friend are always together, to the point where I met the other friend, but this one always evaded me. I'm like, bro, like, I've never seen you around. How have y'all been friends for this long, but we haven't crossed paths? So that happened, and that, long story short, that friendship turned into a currently 9-year-long friendship that's I hold as my closest and deepest friendship to this day, with this person, which I talk about her in like almost every episode. If y'all are up to date with podcast lore. So the thing about this friendship is the timing. Of course, like I said, how did you evade me for all this time? Um, and the up and downs that we went through, and the things that needed to happen through our friendship for my understanding and my questioning and things to work. So I was in the point of my life where I kind of was done speaking to certain people. And like I said, no. And, maybe we went and played the game, and I was with my cousin. I was like, I'm just done. And then we met this person. Now I'm like, oh, who the hell? This is your friend? Like, yeah. Like, turns out they had this whole friendship, whatever. So my cousin went, as we say in internet terms, AFK. He went away for a little bit. He went to go walk his dog. So me and her were just sitting there talking, and just in like that short span of time, we just got to know who we are and some of our interests. And it got to the point where even after my cousin left to go to sleep, we were just sitting there talking all night. We just sat there and just talked all night. Like, bro, like just the chemistry was immediately there. Like, oh damn, like we cool like that. All right, that's nice. So we just started becoming friends, and then my cousin did something, because he always does this. And like I said, as I'm getting older, I am accepting that this is who he is. I'm no longer blaming it. But he did something that he did to me before that I disliked, and I kind of ended my friendship with him. And he did it again, and I'm like, bro, you gonna do it again with her? And like, all right. So I'm like, no, I'm not gonna talk to either one of y'all. And I was just like, was mad disrespectful to mainly her, because she didn't know me. Like, she didn't deserve that. So I didn't talk to her for like a good 3 months, and then we just talked again when I went back online, and she happened to be online. And kind of was one of those, oh hey, I'm just gonna step away while you two talk type thing. So we just talked it out, and I apologized and whatnot, and I'm like, cool, like just be friends. And yeah, so we just started being cool again. And yeah, like I said, like always being there. Like what my relationship with her taught me is basically about how there's somebody there who can always be there for you type thing. Like, you don't have to do things alone. You don't have to try to go at everything alone. There can always be that one person that you can always talk to. Like, there's stuff that, like I said, with my cousin, we're inseparable. There's stuff that I don't tell him that I tell her with no problems. Like, I fully trust her with a lot of things compared to other people that I grew up with in my life, because that bond is so solid. Because she literally saw the, I don't want to say the dark stuff in me, but like she was there to see like how terrible of a person I was, and how much in the bad state I was. To her personality wouldn't allow me to kind of like, cause I was very, I guess, manipulative, I guess, and like putting my emotions on people and trying to let them feel bad about stuff. She wouldn't allow me to do that. So it was a good way of like, oh, like there's someone who would actually put me in check and make me realize that I don't need to act this way to get my point across or to feel better about myself. Like, there's different ways to go about it. So just realizing things and seeing how she operated in her life, and like, oh, she said she had a goal when we first met, and within a few months, within a year, she achieved that goal. And I'm like, bro, like I never really see anyone do that. Like, no, most of your friends say, yeah, we're gonna do this, do that, and usually the plans don't fall through. Like, she said, yeah, I'm gonna do this, and within a year she did it. I'm like, bro, I like, that sparked something in me, like that motivation, that drive to achieve something in your life. Like, I wanted to become better. She enforced the idea of being better in my life, So like no longer, like I said, blaming people and letting my emotions get the best of me and whatnot. So it was like, oh, like I can actually turn myself around and just be better. And there was a point of time where we actually had a argument and we stopped talking again, and it was a needed break because that said that was that isolation, it was a forced isolation, but it was a needed isolation because this is when I stopped disliking my hobbies. I started distancing myself from some of my friends. Some people I talked to vanished in my life, and the one person that I could turn to, I had a falling out with. So it forced me to be alone. But I needed to be alone. I needed this because this was the first time I was able to sit with myself. I built that relationship with myself. I started to accept myself. And for the first time, I was able to admit to myself that I am fine. I can progress on with my life with myself and be happy with myself. And literally, once I finally got to that conclusion of my life, she popped back up in my life. Like, oh, it was like, like God was like, hey, I think you figured it out, so I'm gonna put her back into your life now. And she like, oh, so it's kind of like, oh, you figured it out. All right, cool. Now we can continue our friendship and just pick up where we left off. So that's why I was like, I kind of like know some divine intervention thing of this friendship. Like she would appear when I need her to appear, and she would go away when I don't want her to, but I needed her to because it helps me reflect on myself. Because like I said, I need this isolation sometimes, just to piggyback on my last episode. But yeah, then after that, like just getting to the point where I started to just releasing myself from a lot of my mental and emotional shackles in my life, and just starting to like learn how to just move forward with my life and just let things come as they come, no longer stressing over things, not gonna fight over things that I can't control, just live my life right, and what happens afterwards gonna happen, but my relationship with God and my faith in God has increased tenfold since all of that. And no, like I said, no longer blaming and questioning the negative, and just finding appreciation and beauty in life, and yeah, stuff like that. Take a quick drink real quick. So on the final section, of course I mentioned it before, but the next thing that really helped me not only was that friendship, but was music. In 2011, I was mainly 2010, but 2010, 2011, I was at my I guess my limit with proceeding with my life. Contemplated doing things to myself and whatnot, and there was music that kind of saved me. Just found the right artist at the right time. His music literally just like spoke to how I felt, and I was like, oh, just the first time realizing that I'm not the only one who go through these things or go through these thoughts. So started getting heavy into his music, and then I was like, oh, so like I said, I started quitting most of my hobbies. I started doing my sports and whatnot, so I need a new hobby. Music has always been a part of my life in terms of doing it. I had technically three cousins. Two of them are twin brothers, and one of them is another cousin, who both pursued doing music early in my life, like when I was like 10 or something. So seeing them do it, I was like, oh, like it felt possible, but of course I didn't know how to do it, but it felt possible. Like, oh, look at these dudes. Like, I know these guys. Like, I see them when I go for a family visit with them. Like, I was like idolizing them for making music. I'm like, oh, they are doing something that's like incredible. So, that was something that always been in my mind as a kid. I would write lyrics over songs and use like my voice memo on my phone and rap my lyrics over. But the voice memo will only last for like 60 seconds or whatever. So I only could write a little part and I'll just play it back just to hear myself. But yeah, it wasn't until like 2011 where I met some friends in high school who were actually pursuing music as well, and I was like, oh, like the opportunity arrived that, hey, can I come over to record with you guys type thing. And yeah, the rest was there. I just started rapping pretty much to this day. But in my rap, I would always reference my faith in God in my raps, even when my faith in God wasn't as strong. So it was like I said, it was like that good conscious part of me that knew that it wasn't completely right to completely place all my blame and my negative energy on God. Like there's something there, but I just didn't understand it yet. Of course, my long journey I explained finally helped me get there. But there was that. And then like I said, finding the right artist. Then when I went to college, I found another artist who basically made a bunch of songs talking about his faith in God and other people's faith in God. The rapper is Blue. I talked about him a few times, and he dropped an album called Below the Heavens, which is a classic album. If you have not heard of that album, please go listen to it. And in that album, he talks about a lot of things, but it's one song, the last song I want to say, where he talks about the reason why he named his album Below the Heavens and whatnot. So he mentions his idea of what heaven is and what hell is. He says hell is what we're going through now. That's why he don't technically believe when we die we go to hell. Like, no, this is hell. But he said I just chose to call it stressing, like, just rephrasing what it is that we're going through in our life. But he said to build your heaven, that's what I said, like, because you go through religions and whatnot, the idea of the afterlife gets shaky. There's those people who believe, yeah, we go to heaven, and whatever they believe happens. There's the other sus thing that they believe when they die, they get greeted with virgins or whatever. That's their heaven. So he was like, you should just build your own heaven, because if you die, maybe there is nothing because you didn't believe there was nothing. So what you want your heaven to be, you build it up now, and let that be your heaven. And right now what we're going through is hell. We just gotta get through all of this crapness, and whatever it is that we've been building up in our hearts and our mind, that's our end goal to get to after all of this stress that we went through in life. So yeah, learning how to change my perspective on afterlife and whatnot, like, oh, like, that makes sense. And that's why I said also changing my views of not a God, but my God. Like, this is my personal relationship, because this is my personal journey. So that's mainly it. So doing that to being more confident and more comfortable about when I talk about my faith in God and my music now compared to in the beginning. And also just the things I've seen in my life, comparing people experience, mainly my father's. Like, he's one of those situations, if his faith in God and his personal belief helped him go through all the obstacles he went through. I mean, going from his drug abuse to ruining his marriage and life, basically losing everything, going to jail, just having nothing, losing everything, to the point where he is in his life now, where it's like, he's in a very comfortable position in his life. He regained a lot of things that he lost in his life, and he's in a very, very happy life, and he accumulates all of that to his faith in God. That's one thing he always tell me. And like, in order of importance, God comes first, then your health. Because without God, none of this will work. So that's something he started putting into me as I started getting older. Like I said, from the difference of how they used to talk about things when I was younger, like it always just sounded negative, to now it's like, oh, now I understand it now, and now things sound a little bit more positive. So as you get older, your perspective change and whatnot. But yeah, that's about it. I guess this one was kind of selfish, but I guess I wanted to talk about that. But yeah, as always, question of the day. So because my question was kind of be a 2-3 part question. But have you ever lost your faith in God? And if you did you ever regain it? And if not, what is keeping you from regaining it? And yeah, that's about it. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and probably enjoy this new format. I'll see how people feel about it, if I return back to my old format or not. I don't know, or somehow find a proper balance and just cut all of that about me stuff a little more short and focus on the main topic longer. But yeah, like I said, you guys enjoy this. Please be sure to share, rate this, and hope you guys have a great day and a great week. And yeah, as always, till next time, peace.